All right, what's good, everyone? It's Coach Abris here, or Mythical Games, as you know me on Twitter, founder of Demi Cycle Protocol, and I'm here in Dubai with my mate Oliver Anwar. Oliver, could you introduce yourself in a few words to the audience?
Sure. Thank you for having me on, by the way. This is great. So, yeah, my name's Oliver Anwar. I am a health coach to entrepreneurs, executives, high performers all over the world. Also a Twitter bro. I've been on Twitter for a while now. One of the kind of early fitness accounts on there.
This is 2019, right?
Yeah, 2019. And then, yeah, now I live in Dubai. Got my man Abris here. So, yeah, look forward to this.
Yeah, amazing. And as you mentioned that you're also a health and fitness coach, so
Yep.
uh, that would be a question that I'm pretty sure that you get asked quite a lot and quite often. Like, how the hell did you become a fitness coach? Like, or what motivated you to take this path in life?
Yeah, good question. So I played a lot of elite level football as a kid in the UK. So I was like traveling around the country, playing against some of like the big teams. So Chelsea, Aston Villa, all of these big British like soccer teams or football teams, whatever you guys call it, wherever you're watching. And then yeah, I moved into the fitness space when I got into my university days. So I was studying at university. Decided to set up a website over summer. I was like in great shape. People were like, "How do I get in shape?" So I was like, "I'm going to set up a website." I learned how to do WordPress. Like I went on YouTube and searched how to do this shit. Bought a domain on GoDaddy. I was like, this is like a little project I'm working on. And then I created some fitness packages with like PayPal links. And then like I launched it on Facebook. And then the first night, like someone paid for a package. I was like, shit, man. It was like $100 for my first package. I was like, man, this is amazing, man. The first hit of online money. So when that happened, I was like, this has got to be one of the things that I want to continue with doing. So I ran it alongside working corporate. Then COVID hit and I started a Twitter account. Things started to really blow up because everybody was online, everybody wanted online training, and yeah, it kind of just snowballed from there. And then we're here where we are now. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, here where we are now, like where we are now, right? Yeah. So where are we? So as and I can see, Mune, as we've been talking before, you are specifically health and performance coach for high level people, entrepreneurs, founders, and so on. So you started from selling pre-made programs to actually personalizing your whole service and catering to this highly productive and high achieving audience.
yep.
And connected to that, what do you think? What is the role of health and brain performance when it comes to entrepreneurship and being a high performer?
Yeah, definitely. I talk about this a lot. It's like health and longevity is a competitive advantage for entrepreneurs and executives because there's a couple of sides to it, right? There are kind of two paths you can go down. You can go into, the office or go into your business being the overweight CEO that can't fit into his, shirt, that doesn't like taking his shirt off, when he goes to the pool, that gets very irritable throughout the course of the day, that doesn't have much energy.
Turns the lights off when having sex with his wife.
Exactly, right? That kind of thing, right? And you've got all of this material money, but internally you don't feel good because on one side you're a winner, but with your health and fitness, you're a loser, right? So this is a lot of the balancing that you need to do. And then you've got the other guy, right, that is just as successful in his business, but guess what? He's in shape. He wakes up in the morning, he trains, he tracks his macros, he sleeps well, he's optimized with his supplements, and he's firing on all cylinders. So he's not only winning in business, but he's winning in fitness, he's winning in his relationships, he's got a great relationship with his family and kids. So that's the advantage that you have because other people are not taking care of it and they tend to sacrifice their health to get the business success. So if somebody has business success and then they start taking care of their health, that's when you become the top 0.01% of people when you're looking after things like that.
Exactly. I'm resonating with this so much because I always say like it's better to have 6 million assets and a six pack than 100 million in assets and 100 pounds in extra body weight. That that's not the type of person you want to become at any given age, to be honest. And definitely, if you perform well with your health and in your everyday life, the way you pay attention, the way you are energizing yourself, it is going so much better, so much faster. You're much more efficient in an operational term.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Like, what is the role of energy levels, circadian health, and sleep hygiene in this whole equation?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is really down to, like you said, it's building the right routine and the right habits because when you've got that routine locked in, your performance improves a lot. So, for example, it all starts with kind of like sleep hygiene, which is the foundation. If you can get that sleep hygiene nailed, you wake up with a lot of energy. You're more likely to do that morning workout, right? You then do that morning workout, you feel good. You release those endorphins, that BDNF that you get in the morning. Your cognitive performance is better. And then because you've got this energy and you feel rested, you then perform like a machine, you eat well, and this cycle kind of happens of like positive reinforcement and positive, energy, decisions and things like that. Whereas you go through the opposite cycle of having a bad sleep and then everything else is impacted, right? Everything downstream from that, from the way you interact with your wife, with your kids, with the decisions that you make, the irritability that you have, like what you have after a long stressful day. That's a big thing, right? The cravings that we were talking about earlier, right? The cravings that people have when they're stressed at the end of the night. It's kind of like those are just, you're going to fall into that trap if you don't have the rest of the foundations in place, if that makes sense.
So you would say sometimes the solution is just fixing your sleep, your circadian health, instead of having a hotline to call. You create something. So yeah, I mean, there are some good alternatives. For example, you can eat watermelon. Watermelon's great. Watermelon is good. I wish I could have brought you for today like a gift watermelon, but next time when it will feel in my pocket, we'll do it, man. Yeah, we should definitely do a pre and post workout watermelon. But getting back to sleep and energy levels, I definitely noticed that those people who do not have these systems in place or do not have these habits in place in their lifestyle, they tend to be more irritable. They are out of focus. They can't really concentrate, and they are less likely to go through their entire to-do list for the day.
Yep.
And when you can't do that, you can't go through your to-do list. You're anxious. You're irritated.
Yep.
And it's hard to fall asleep again. So it's a vicious circle, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's a vicious circle, and it's also like I spoke about a minute ago, like that internal conflict that you're feeling. It's like you're such a winner in business, right? You're so good at that. But you look at yourself in the mirror and you're not a winner, right? I think this really eats people up. That is like,
It's a mismatch between.
it's a mismatch, right? That's the thing. And if you've got a specific like type A personality, which is a lot of the people that we work with that are like goal oriented, that always want to be improving and progress, it eats you alive inside when you're not looking after this stuff. That's obviously one side, but then there's obviously that's the psychological. You've got the physiological side of things, right? Where it's kind of like your body is breaking down inside, you can't focus, you feel tired. So yeah, this is why health has to be number one.
It's very interesting because most of the founders I've been talking to and I've been working with, they tend to neglect their health and delay getting that whole system together until they get an IPO or they exit their businesses or whatever. Yeah, they live in this false reality or in this false belief of meanwhile you're scaling.
Yeah,
you should be going all in on that and neglect everything else. So what's your take on that?
it's a very good question, and I think that things have to be sacrificed for success, right? This is what is going to happen. If you want to build a big company, you're going to have to sacrifice things. But like I mentioned before, there are ways in which you can look after things and build the right habits that make things easy. And I think this is, well, what you do come into play, what I do come into play is you don't have to live like a bodybuilder, right? You don't have to be in the gym 2 hours a day. You don't have to be eating like these crazy meals and all of this kind of stuff. It's kind of like you stick to these key principles and you stay consistent with that over time, it just builds a solid foundation. And then what happens is you wake up with that killer instinct a lot more. So, for example, if you're like dialed in and you're scaling your company, if you've got that killer instinct, bro, you're going to scale that company a lot quicker if you've got the energy levels, the focus, those habits in place. Whereas if you've got like 50% of the energy and you're not feeling as good, that company is not going to scale as well, right? It's just you are the founder that drives it forward. So you are the one that dictates the intensity that it grows at. And that comes from your energy and your health.
For sure, for sure. So you're like, how you do anything is how you do everything. In that sense, it's absolutely true. We can agree on that. And okay, you mentioned sleep. You mentioned the shape aspect of it, how you look, like how your body performs and stuff like that. What about longevity? Like, what do you think of these emerging trends of longevity treatments and generally the idea of living forever? Would you entertain that idea, or are you a bit repulsed by that?
It's good, man. I think it's very interesting. There's a lot of good research out there to show there are a lot of things that you can do to help with longevity. So one of the big things is like saunas, right? There's a Finnish study that shows if you do sauna 4 to 7 times a week, there's like a 40% decrease in all-cause mortality, which is like great because I like to go to the sauna anyway after a long day. When it's stressful, you release like this inflammation, you get better skin health, but it also makes you live longer. So you're like, man, this is great. It's a stress reliever and I basically live longer, right? So I think the issue with longevity, where most people get it wrong, is like one of the biggest factors in longevity is like having more muscle mass, right? And also like not being overweight. So what you do is you see guys with like 30% body fat that are, doing cold plunges and ice baths, but they can't do a fucking pull up. And I'm like, bro, you're really majoring in the minors because you're not doing the hard stuff, but you're doing the sexy stuff. And I was doing a talk on longevity to some founders recently, and I said, guys, this is like you as a founder not having any clients, but getting the most perfect Patrick Bateman, business card and being like, look at this is great, this is my business, this is what I do, how I make zero fucking revenue, So it's like focus on the stuff that actually moves things forward. And I think once you've got that foundation and you are optimized, you can then take things to the next level and do cold plunges, then do ice baths, then do biohacking and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a very interesting space. You should definitely look into it, but only when you're at a certain level at which it can actually impact you, if that makes sense.
Exactly. So first get your muscle mass, your body composition, your
Sleep, recovery, bad habits, and then look to add on, you know?
exactly, and then you can add some biohacking supplements, some tricks, some cool plunges, some saunas.
Yeah, go crazy.
Exactly. They don't measure in the minors. That's a very good expression for
You
that.
said it well.
And yeah, but do you entertain the idea of living forever or just kind of longevity, escape velocity?
Yeah, I'm not sure I truly believe in like living forever, right? Because I think life as well is kind of like the reason why it is special is because there is an end date at some point, right? So, but if we can extend that end date, extend that end date, but also extend the quality of the time that we're here, I think that that's amazing. So if this stuff helps us live a higher quality and longer life, I'm all for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And what do you think with the current trends in technology, with the way you're living your lifestyles?
Yeah.
How long do you expect yourself to live if you're playing your cards well?
I think you can live to over 100 quite easily.
Yeah. And do you still want to be jacked when you're over 100?
Yeah, 100%, man. Get me on the CRT, get me on everything, man. I'm going to be the most jacked 100-year-old AC.
I want to meet the 100-year-old Oliver with great grandkids who are just as jacked as him. That would be dope to see.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere here in Dubai. Who knows? It's awesome. Or maybe in space, if Elon sorts out this Mars spot. Everything until then, we could go there. We could open the first like fitness X gym in the space on Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, future business ideas for some of you guys. But anyway, you talked about the fundamentals, right? So when it comes to building muscle, of course, yeah, one of the main components of that is resistance training.
Yep.
But when it comes to resistance training, like people tend to be confused. So what is your approach? What would you advise? To what degree should we focus on compound exercises versus isolation movements?
Yeah.
Weight training versus body weight training. So how do you approach this?
Yeah, really good question. I think the main thing is resistance training, everybody should be doing it. So when you're 30 plus, you're after every decade after you're 30, you're going to lose 8% of your muscle mass if you don't train. So as you get older, like your body is in decline. If you go 30 years, 40 years, and you've lost a third of your muscle mass from just existing. So if you're not training, you're in decline. So again, this is going to help with anti-fragility, not getting sicker. You know, if you do fall, it's going to prevent you from breaking your bones, things like that. All of this stuff's great for longevity. So any kind of resistance training, number one, you should be doing it. Now, secondly, I think when you're looking at resistance training, like you mentioned, compound movements are probably the key that you want to focus on, especially if you're an entrepreneur or executive or busy, because you're going to get your most bang for your buck for muscle groups trained per exercise, right? So if you're going to do like a heavy squat or you're going to do a bench press, there's multiple muscle groups being trained at that point. You can also lift heavier, so your progressive overload is going to be higher. So that's going to be awesome. Isolation still shouldn't be ignored, so you should add them in, but they're kind of like the supplement to a very good set of compounds. Like today, we did 4 to 6 solid compounds. We were pretty knackered, and we finished off with some accessory work and some isolation. So like again, like that's fine to do, but when people go in and they're doing bicep curls to start, loads of tricep extensions, and they're missing like training legs and the major muscle groups, that's really going to have an impact. It's just not an optimal way to train. Also, if you can, I know there's research to show that if you train muscles twice a week versus once a week, that's going to help with overall hypertrophy. So I think that that's good. Trying to do more maybe full body stuff or like push pull legs repeated, upper body, lower body. That stuff can be really good. And I think finally, it's kind of like, and I'm sure we'll go on to this, like recovery is so important. So don't go to the gym 7 days a week. And I know that if you're an entrepreneur or you're an executive, you're like got this 0 to 100 mindset that like, I'm a fucking animal. I want to do this 7 days a week. I'm a beast. Your body's not going to recover. Even professional athletes, they have 1 day off a week, and it's their whole job to be an athlete. So I always say like 4 to 5 days a week, like that's the sweet spot to be training. I think even 4 days with like 3 days off, man, you can still get great results from doing that, so long as you're following the right principles, training structure, and things like that.
Exactly, 100% agree with that. Like currently, guess how often I train to maintain this? 4. Agree? No, 2 times. 2. I'm maintaining this with 2, maximum 3. So I've been focusing on a lot more stuff, a lot more business stuff going on and stuff like that. But okay, I was like, how can I condense everything I do into 2 or 3 sessions, doing 2 full body, full body, so upper lower, maybe 4, or like upper lower pull. These are very good splits that you mentioned because then you don't have to dedicate a single day to one or two muscle groups only. You can dedicate one day to multiple muscle groups, then rest for 1 or 2 days, then go again, stuff like that.
Yep.
And frequency is key, just like you mentioned, like 100%. The more frequently you train those muscles, meanwhile still having time to recover in between, it's true.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that the muscles will be growing faster, and the overall potential of muscle that you can build in the future will grow as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
You can extend your natural potential. Um, and whether you're going super high volume or super high intensity, to be honest, personally, I'm in the high intensity front, or I'm in favor of high intensity.
Yep.
But both works. So just do it. Just do your resistance training. For God's sake, all the entrepreneurs, all the executives, yeah, should be doing that. It improves. It's been proven in a study that I think it was somewhere around earlier, like 2013.
Yeah.
It was measuring brain performance
Okay. Yeah.
of certain high level people and stuff like that. And it went by more than 30-40%.
Crazy.
Just by doing 2 to 4 lifting sessions a week. And those weren't too long. So you don't have to I don't think you need any longer than 30 to 50 minutes. Those in the study were like 25 to 35-minute sessions.
Okay. Yeah.
So pretty intense, probably circuit workouts and stuff like that. But still, that's something, and it's always better than nothing. So
Yeah.
totally agree with your approach. But of course, resistance training is not the only thing that you mentioned when it comes to longevity and getting in shape, getting your health under control. So you mentioned the importance of nutrition. And there's one really big question that divides the whole fitness community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, like, are you a calorie counter, or do you have your clients can count calories?
Yeah.
Or do you belong to the group of coaches who do not count calories? And let's not mention the calorie denier. So in this interview, we are both assuming that calorie as a measurement of energy, as a metric for the amount of energy burnt or consumed, we will assume that it exists.
Yep.
So if we assume that calories exist, do you count them or do you not count them?
Great question. And I'm going to answer this in a way depending on where you're at, right? So some people can lose weight without counting calories, but most people are not accountable to the calories they eat and they overconsume. And I always use this analogy. It's kind of like you don't have to, when you're driving, you don't have to read the speedometer, right? You can just drive and just be like, hey, I'm driving. If you keep getting pocket speeding tickets, then maybe you should look at it, right? It's exactly the same with your health. If you keep eating a lot and you keep getting fat, it's kind of like, oh, okay, maybe you should look at the amount of food you're consuming to see. Same with your finances, right? If you get to the end of the month and you're fucking broke and you've got no money and you haven't looked at your bank, well, maybe you should look at it each day and track what you're spending to see what's happening. So calories counting is good because it keeps you accountable, and there's no lying as well. With a lot of people, they like to use opinions, not facts, right? So they'll say, oh, I ate really well today. I had a really good day. I ate this, that. Yeah, I was on my diet. But that's an opinion, not a fact. How many fucking calories did you eat? What was your protein?
I only do scoops of peanut butter, and then it turns out to be 900.
Yeah, and then somebody's gained like 5 pounds in a week. It's like, well, bro, you must have been eating a bit more than that. You must have eaten the whole fucking top. So it's kind of like, I like to say like, people, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? So that's why calorie counting could be a good thing to do because it will always tell you the truth. However, I think once you've got an understanding of calorie counting, you can then go and understand food so you don't have to calorie count. So like today I've gone out and I know that I'm not going to track today, but I know that I'm going to be pretty much within my calorie and my protein range because I just understand food from tracking calories. So it's a very good experience to do and an education to do it. But you don't need to do it for your whole life, I would say. Once you've got the knowledge and you're accountable for it, that would be my take on it.
Yeah, interesting perspective. So personally, I don't have my clients count calories. I don't count calories either. And I still manage to go up and down in weight as I want. Yeah, right. But definitely in the beginning, if you have no clue of macros or you have no clue of food and nutrition and stuff like that, definitely it could be a good move to count your calories, get it dialed in. Personally, I'm against it because later on, especially for founders and entrepreneurs who have this all or nothing approach that you mentioned, the 0 or 100 approach,
Yep.
they tend to be too nervous about it. They tend to be
Great anxiety as well.
yeah. If it makes you neurotic, probably that's bad for your core 100% on levels. So this is why I'm on pretty much the other side, but I can totally understand your point, and it is helpful. It's like it's like an anchor for your ship when you're just trying to reach a shore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're a beginner, it definitely helps for a while. Once you get into the routine and you can just eye measure your food or just know your way around nutrition, you know how the macros function and certain portion sizes, I think you will be good without counting calories and you can focus on other stuff. Maybe like cold lunches, the chicks. But yeah, definitely that was a pretty good take. And when it comes to longevity and health, you have also mentioned like not getting sick. The number one rule of health is don't get sick, don't die.
Right, yeah.
So what would you advise for someone who wants to bulletproof their health against preventable diseases?
Great question. I think one of the big things that this covers is kind of like your internal health and your blood work and like health testing. And I know that you do this stuff with your clients, or some of them at least, and I do some of mine as well. And knowing kind of like your internal health, your metabolic health, your nutritional deficiencies, your hormone balance, all of this stuff will have an impact on like whether you get sick. So like if you've got like an underactive thyroid or something like that, that's bad. If your cholesterol is super high or your blood pressure is super high, you can be walking around and not knowing these things. You might feel that you look good or you feel okay, but internally you can be a mess. So like a big thing is like nutrients. So as an entrepreneur, you burn through like certain nutrients like 2 times as fast. So B complex, vitamin D, C, E, zinc, magnesium, and a few others. So just those there, like when you're a founder, you're going to burn through that straight away. Not a lot of people know that. And I've been doing blood work with some of my clients recently. And like two of my top performing like business clients, they are so deficient in vitamin D. Crazy, right? And they didn't even know this. And they live in like pretty warm climates as well. They go outdoors, and it's kind of like, well, it's because there's a stress, like it's eating the body up, and they would find they would get sick in certain times, and they get little illnesses and colds. So I think the blood work and the internal health, like getting an idea of that, doing a quarterly checkup, and making sure that you're not deficient of any issues there will have a pretty big impact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like knowing your numbers, just like what you mentioned, because like people like women like and up is like so the same goes for the values in your blood test. So if you get a full lipid profile, for example, or stuff like that. So sometimes it turns out what you thought the problem is, or the problem that you didn't know about, hides another problem behind it. Right? Many people who came to me with thyroid issues, it turned out it wasn't their thyroid, it was their liver who prevented the T4 to exactly T3, so different hormones blocking each other and stuff like that. The human body is so complex to the degree that we need to simplify that with the numbers, at least being aware of
100%.
what has gone wrong and where exactly, and okay, what's the next step. And it's a very interesting thing that you mentioned about vitamin D, because one of my clients who just came to visit here in Dubai mentioned that's the second most common illness here in Dubai, where we got sunlight 24/7, is vitamin D deficiency, because they sit indoors in the air conditioned and flashy artificial light filled environment, offices and stuff like that all day long.
And then also with that as well, like the UV quality has an impact on vitamin D as well. So certain times of the day, you can go out and you get some sun and you're like, oh yeah, I've got vitamin D levels, amazing. I'm sun maxing, bro. You know this shit. But still, your vitamin D might not be perfect because of the UV. So again, supplementing with that, like some people don't know this shit, right? Again, it's really eye opening when you do these tests.
A couple of days ago, I got a weird comment on Twitter, on X, or whatever we call it. Why even take vitamin D with me to Dubai? Because I posted a picture of my supplement stack that I was modeling through the borders. And like, this is what I'm taking. And the vitamin D, to be honest, for me, it's like either just a mental relief, something for my mitochondrial metabolism, and honestly, just to save this stuff. Because who knows that tomorrow I'm going to have like a bunch of meetings. By the way, tomorrow I'm with also. Actually, I will spend most of my day in my house indoors. And I need this vitamin D because by the time I get outdoors, and it's November right now, it will get dark.
Yep.
Now, if you need this vitamin D every single day, I need to also have something in my storage, in my fast storages, right? That's where you store your vitamin D, and that's what you need later on for energy, for hormonal optimization, stuff like that. But speaking of sun maxing, you mentioned like, what do you think of these emerging trends of esoteric or holistic health? Speaking of sunning your testicles, like literally, laying out in the sun, sunning your balls and eating raw meat, raw eggs, raw milk, raw everything, raw.
X. Yeah,
What's your take on these movements?
yeah. So I kind of have a balanced view on it. It's kind of a lot of this stuff's good because it's getting you back to nature and like getting you back to being a human being. And human beings weren't naturally meant to sit in an office for 12 hours a day with lots of artificial light, eat a ton of processed food, deal with the amount of stress they deal with on a day-to-day basis, especially if you're like a founder. So again, trying to get your body back to a natural state is good, but we also have to say, okay, is this stuff practical? If you're like a 50-year-old CEO with a family and kids and you've got a 16-hour day and you live in Ohio, like how are you going to sun your balls, right? It's kind of like
Red light therapy.
right? But if you're a fitness influencer on Twitter, it's easy for you to go out because it's your fucking job to go and sun your balls and do all this crazy shit. So, again, we've got to see what's actually going to be practical ways that we can execute this on a day to day. But doing stuff like that is maybe like low friction, like grounding, or maybe having some eggs in the morning, or whatever kind of take that doesn't require too much sacrifice in your life is a good thing to do.
Yeah, or just go on no walls. Like touching grass is like
No, no grass, that's and sun.
yeah, exactly. Touching grass and getting some sun is the most entry level stuff that you can do for this holistic health optimization. You will already feel better. Your dopamine, serotonin receptors will be much more sensitive to all of these rushes. So,
Yeah.
I think it's overall a good way to go about it. But if you're too neurotic about it, or if you go too much into this esoteric or all this direction, you're trying to do everything perfectly, it will go on your nerves. It will get on your nerves. Again, stress levels go high.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotta be careful with that, especially depending on the nature of the business that you're running. Of course, if you're selling holistic supplement, probably you should sun your balls, get cold plunges, eat raw testicle.
Yeah.
If you're not, if you're doing something else, if you're in some other profile of business, probably you should do that 20% of the stuff that is responsible for 80% of like so focus on the fundamentals, focus on the basics, and yeah. Now that we went through the fundamentals and the principles of health and like we got some insights into the systems that you use, let's talk a little bit about the lifestyle. So currently you're living in Dubai.
Yep.
So how did you come here? What motivated you to move?
Yeah, good question. So I've been here for about 8 months now. I moved in March and of this year, and for me, like the UK was just going on a downward kind of trajectory. I just felt like the West in general was just going, a little bit down. The weather was bad, and I'd always wanted to live in an environment that was conducive to health. So nice sunlight, beaches. I know the air quality in Dubai isn't great, so yeah, don't shout at me. I can't be perfect, but you know what I mean. I wanted to live somewhere that was not only healthy for fitness, but also a very forward-thinking place full of other people that were running businesses and things like that. And that was kind of the main reason. There's obviously some tax benefits from being here that helps, but yeah, there was a lot of reasons as to why Dubai ticked the boxes for me. And yeah, it's been awesome, man. I'm so glad I moved.
I can totally understand. It's just my second or third day here, but already can get the vibes. A completely resonate with why an entrepreneur like you would want to live here. And you mentioned that the UK right now and the West in general is on a downwards trajectory.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Why is that happening? Or what in what ways is Dubai better than England, for example?
Yeah.
And what ways maybe it is worse? So what
Good question. Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the main things here is like there's just no bullshit in Dubai in the sense that you see a lot of stuff, especially in the UK, of like woke ideology, like this the gender stuff that they have, like all of this kind of stuff that's distracting people from actually doing what they should be doing, which is like focusing on their life, helping people winning, right? They want to distract everybody with all this kind of like nonsense. Whereas here you don't have any of that stuff. It's people come here because it's a safe environment, number one. It's clean. There's so many like healthy gyms here. The values here are traditional too. So like the Emirati, they like families and they like kids being and running around here, right? You just never see this amount start in the UK. Whereas they're trying to push ideologies like feminism or all this other stuff in the UK, which affects families, kids, all this stuff. So, yeah, for me, that was a big thing. I just wanted to be away from all of that. I think the political landscape as well in the UK is just, yeah, a little bit toxic as well. There's not much unity with people there, and they just kind of tolerate too much BS, man. So I thought, like, let's move out.
exactly. I mean, feel free to share with us your unfiltered opinion. I think on X, it's completely
Exactly, it's fine.
and I do resonate. I do agree too. So of course, I'm not from a Western nation, so I never had to deal with like this level of bullshit, this level of distractions, but I get it why more and more people get out to Dubai or to Paraguay, to any other, these low tax or no tax and also like no boat nations to establish just like in residency. So yeah, I can totally understand that. And yeah, have you ever been actually to any other of the Gulf nations?
Yeah, so I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to Oman, I've been to Bahrain, so I've been to a few. Yeah,
Okay, and what was your impression of those countries?
they were nice. So I went to Oman. This Oman is like Dubai in the sense that it's fairly modern in some parts, but they've also got like the traditional kind of Omani. So instead of it all kind of being built up, it feels like you're in an Arab country a lot more. So you still got the nice hotels, you still got the safety, you go to the nice malls and things like that. You kind of got more of the traditional Arab culture, which is kind of cool, right? You go there and you're like, oh, I'm actually in the Middle East. Whereas in Dubai, you're in the Middle East, but there's a difference, right? Because it feels like you're in Miami here or you're in like a big city. It's kind of like, this is crazy, right? It's a bit too modern. So, um, yeah, that's pretty cool. Saudi Arabia is okay. I think it's a lot less built up than in kind of Dubai and things like that. So I think in 10 years' time, 5 years' time, it's going to be a lot more modern and like this. I know they've got a lot of new plans for it. So, yeah, it's really interesting. All these places are like very safe. Getting around is okay. And there's no bullshit, like I mentioned. So yeah.
So it's kind of interesting what you mentioned about Dubai, that it's more modern and less spice of the Arab culture, because I kind of noticed the same, right? I was expecting some, these Arabic style palaces, yeah, a lot more mosques, right?
Yeah.
A lot of traditional buildings we could see on those Middle Eastern movies, medieval and Middle Eastern movies and stuff like that. So, but when I got here, I was like, okay, that's like a mix of, as you mentioned, Miami, somewhere even a little bit of London too, except in London somewhere. They it's like an eclectic mix of many different cities in a super modern, hyper modern setting, and obviously it's great for business. Entrepreneurs just think even think other Gulf countries as well, especially Oman, to see that kind of desert romantic.
It's
Around.
romantic. It's really nice. I'll be like that.
By the way, how often do you travel?
So yeah, I mean, recently I've been staying in Dubai for a while. So it's kind of September. Over the summer, it does get very hot here, so that's one of the downsides of Dubai. So I actually went to Europe for a little bit, which is great. So I try and get away like every few months. Like the way I like to do things is like get your head down for like 3 months, like kind of lock in, get a lot of work done. And then I think naturally people just want that release or like that change of environment that helps with maybe creativity or just de-stressing. And then I like to go away on vacation or whatever it is. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool setup. I kind of like saw this kind of sprints, ease up just a little bit, sprint, ease up for a few days, and then get back to it. So, yeah, I mean, I reload pretty fast, but I do like taking part in the meantime, go somewhere, visiting clients, yeah, stuff like that. What's your approach to staying fit, staying in shape, or even like losing some of your body fat meanwhile travel? So, what would you advise for those founders, those entrepreneurs who was got to travel a lot, take a lot of flights for business conferences, or because of the nature of their work, they have to be in the go constantly 10, 15, 20 times a year. So, what are your main rules for staying in shape for traveling?
Yeah, great question. So many of our clients are going through kind of this all the time, right? So it's kind of like we have one client who's like, he travels like every single week for like 3 days. So he's like constantly on the move. And what we say is having a plan, and what we should really say is important is like a source of protein where you're going. Like that has to be one of the biggest things, I think, from a nutrition standpoint. It's kind of like, how are you building protein around your meals when you're on the go? That's one thing you really have to think about. So a really good like example, let's say if you're going out for a day and you're staying in a hotel, first thing in the morning, load up with like a high protein breakfast at the hotel that you're staying at, because it's usually included as a buffet option. You can pick the portions of how much you need. That's great. Have a coffee, lots of water. Then when it gets to lunchtime, either have a salad or skip lunch. Keep that kind of very light. Then in the evening, what you've done is you've allowed yourself a load of wiggle room to then have dinner with clients. And what we say is like, obviously still stick to the protein side of things, pick a steakhouse if you can, but when you are adding in carbohydrates, you can still do that, but just be careful with the quality that you're adding in and the sources and things like that happen, because this can have a really big impact on, your calorie count and things like that. And then when it comes to alcohol, I think alcohol is okay, especially if you're going to meet somebody. You don't want to be that guy maybe on the first meeting to be like, oh, I don't want to drink. And they're kind of like, whoa, who the hell is this guy? And you ruin the meeting. have a couple of drinks, but stick to the right thing. So it could be a vodka with a soda, tequila as well. Like tequila's good. And then if you are going to continue drinking, just make sure that you obviously don't have too many and you stick to water in between rounds, as hard as that is. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yes. More on the side of moderation, and getting that under control.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt if every once in a while you drink a glass of true or dry red wine,
Yeah.
soda, or whatever. So it's still like having fun, right?
Great. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, German. So yeah, when it comes to traveling and getting in shape, obviously you've got plenty of experience with that and your clients too.
Yep.
But when it comes to living here in Dubai,
Yep.
and getting logged in, can you imagine that this is the place where you permanently settle down and imagine your future at?
Yeah, I was having this conversation with a friend recently. I think for the next 5 years, I definitely want to be here because there's a lot of like benefits that come from like having the residency for like 5 years in regards to like financials, capital gains, things like that. And if it's a place that you want to make money and you want it to be safe, like Dubai is the place. And like your network of the people that you've met, like the 8 months that I've been here so far, the caliber of people I've met been insane and crazy. Just from the fact that you're in the right location and your environment's everything. So we spoke about today, we were in the gym and you said to me, man, everybody here is fucking jacked. It's true, right? Like people have a standard to their health here, right? You go out and you meet somebody, somebody's always going to be richer than you here, right? So you're in a place of people that are really about it and attacking life and playing that offense. So if you want to push yourself, this is a great environment to be at. And it's not just full of hedonism. Yeah, there's a hedonism side to where everybody comes to party, but it's also a really good place to lock in because you get efficiency here. The taxis are easy to order. The food gets delivered to your door. There are health food options everywhere. There are gyms everywhere. The weather is great. Having a healthy lifestyle is easy. So it's so easy to lock in and build the right lifestyle here if you focus on it and have the right habits. Because, like I said, there is that hedonistic side of things too. So, yeah, man, I can see myself here for a while. I'm going to do some traveling as well, but I love Dubai, and I think anybody that enjoys all the things that I've spoken about there should move it for sure.
Absolutely, and I get that. A lot of people come here just for the party and stuff like that. But I think like a good chunk, a significant chunk of people here are here to get logged in, to do business, yeah, negotiate with each other, to network and to improve themselves in general. And there is always, of course, a bigger efficiency. What I noticed that I like two type of party people in Dubai. Where the broke Europeans who come here for 1 week a year, right? They're like the super rich elite who spend like $5,000 on a single bottle, yeah, super expensive champagne or stuff like that. So there are obvious levels to this game, but if you want to improve yourself, even after this back to the age that I spent here, I can already feel the vibes being elevated and stuff like that. So you said we wanna stay here for sure for the next 5 years. Yeah. So what do you see? What is the trajectory that Dubai is on for the next 5 years?
I think there's a lot going on. So the budget came out recently for Dubai in regards to kind of what they're spending on. So they're going to be doing a lot more building around here. And they're also investing a lot of money into health and wellness, which is pretty crazy. So I can feel like there's going to be more gyms, there's going to be more yoga studios, there's going to be so much that's going to be focused on health around here, which is going to be insane. I do think that like properties are going to go up and it's going to get more expensive too. So that's another thing to consider. But I said this to someone recently. Like, where else in the world would you move to if you want to make money and be successful at this kind of life? It's kind of like, well, you've got New York, which is a pretty good hub if you want to build a business. You've got like Silicon Valley as well, Singapore, and then there's Dubai. There's maybe only 4 locations you want to go to. London is basically finished now. There's not much going on in London anymore. Hong Kong is on a kind of bit of a downward trajectory, according to people that I've spoken with that are there. You maybe got Miami. Okay, Miami's a good city to go, so you can have that one. But it's kind of like, where else? And like if you look at all the boxes that we're talking about around safety, tax, weather, high level people, it's like Dubai is the best place, man. Yeah.
I can see some South American or like Mesoamerican countries on the come up, but yeah, definitely they are not at that level yet. Not at that level yet. I can imagine, for example, Asuncion in Paraguay to come up in 10 to 15 years to the level where Dubai is right now. They start building a new skyscraper every single day. It's insane projects going over there, but far from having the amount of capital that Dubai that they need. Yeah, yeah, insane. You know, one thing I like about the Arabic mentality is that they like planning long term. Yeah. So in the West, all we got is 4 year, maybe 5 year election cycle, and only 4 or 5 year plans for executing something. In 4 or 5 years, you can't really build anything big. No, right? You need a longer time frame if you want to think bigger. So what I like that these Gulf countries, Arabic countries, they always release budgets and plans for going forward to 2030 or like 2040, 2050 years, right? So they got this long term mindset. Is it visible in their everyday lives, how they behave and how they act?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I don't really have many Arab friends, so I wouldn't be able to know. But I know from a governmental standpoint, their vision is always long term. They're always thinking about how they could be the best, not in a few years, but in like 5, 10 years, right? So and I think that's the big thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes going slow is going further. Yeah, definitely. And you spoke about traditional values. You spoke about no wokeism, none of the bullshit and stuff like that. So that might sound a little bit controversial, but yeah, there were a lot of studies, articles, and even discussions on Twitter or X about that. Is fitness and taking care of one's health by default right wing coded? Is the guy like dudes with high testosterone tends to hold more converse like conservative and right wing values? Is that true in your opinion?
I think from the observations I've had, yeah, it's very true because, like, for you to work hard and to get ahead, you're always going to hold more of a conservative value, and you're going to understand that, like, personal ownership and no handouts, and you basically doing this yourself is going to be the reason for your success, right? Nobody else is really going to kind of help you. And I think a lot of people get this misconstrued that if you do that, that like nobody else is going to care about you, whatever that may be. But I kind of disagree that you can still have that value of kind of like people, you can care about other people, you can care about what's going on in the world, but also hold the values of like, you know, I want to move ahead and I'm more conservative and I care about the traditional stuff, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Sure, and you've got to work for your merits, and that's something that might be missing from left wing ideologies and whatever. And of course, we're not here to discuss politics today or anything like that. But that's true indeed that I rarely see any left wing guys being ripped or energetic or athletic or yeah, feeling good about themselves. So there must be something to the science of hormones. But that's why we're doing numbers and testing, by the way. Because want to see, okay, how did it work? How the body and the brain and everything correlate? And I found it like super fascinating to go. And speaking of conservative values in being watering and stuff like that, you know a person who stirred a couple of pots around the world, namely Andrew Tate. Yeah, you've met him in person. You got to spend a day with him. Yep. So, what was your impression of him? Is he really like what the mainstream media tries to portray him as the evil person, or like he's just a chill dude who just wants to help people?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think he is definitely a controversial character online. I definitely agree with that side. But to say that the media is right about all the stuff that he is, I disagree from the experience that I met with him. I felt like he is the person that he says he is. I think he does definitely wants to help people. He is obviously more conservative values, for sure. He hates all the woke ideology and all that bullshit, 100%. But he isn't like this crazy criminal that people are making it out to be, in my opinion, anyway, when I met him. So, again, I had a good experience with him. He was a cool guy. We had a lot of things that we aligned with in regards to our views and stuff like that. There were maybe things that we didn't align with, and maybe things I don't agree with. It's the same with everybody, right? I always say, like, I don't agree with everything my mum says, but, do I hate my mum? No. We think for
You sound calorie light on.
exactly, bro. And again, people get very emotional about this kind of stuff. So I had a good experience, and I think he's overall a good guy for sure.
Oh, that's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. And when it comes to some conservative values, there's one thing you often tweet about, you often talk about. Say, what is this obsession with women wearing dresses? Could you explain that to me?
But this comes from a little joke that I had on Twitter, right? So I used to go out with like a British girl, and I said to her like, wear a dress to the date, and like she went crazy at me, said I was a misogynist and stuff like that. And then I went out on the date with a Russian girl. I said the same thing, and then she turned up with like a very nice dress, heels, and like there was no problem. So I tweeted about this experience, and like people went crazy at me on Twitter. They were like, "You're this, you're that." Like there was just a ton of people agreeing with me. There was a ton of people hating on me. Typical Twitter. 'Cause this tweet went like parabolic, right? So now, just to like wake people up, I'm always tweeting about you know dress girls in dresses, and then like it's part of like a healthy lifestyle with conservative values. So they go to whereas, yeah, it's kind of a running joke that half the people say,
It has become a huge meme. Yeah, it was one of your viral posts.
viral post.
And it went big, and I kind of resonated that. Yeah, but I like women in dresses. That's feminine. That's
Right.
natural, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Showing in a modest way how beautiful they are.
Yeah, and I think now that like Trump won, right, there's going to be more of a golden era approach to things, right? Exactly.
Bring back women in dresses.
Bring women in dresses, people having kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be good.
love that, man. And as a bonus question to finish up for today, do you like watermelon? It's pre-workout.
Absolutely, bro. I love watermelon.
Awesome. You see, guys, Oliver is also someone who endorses watermelon, someone who embraces the power of watermelon. The citrulline, the potassium, the blood flow to gets to you. So
It tastes great as well. So yeah,
exactly, you should eat more watermelon before every workout. Say if you want more veins in your muscles, if you want better fun, better performance, lower blood pressure, more stamina in the bed with your wife, your girlfriend, definitely go for that. Just keep watermelon day.
100%.
And with that being said, I would summarize this for today. So
Yeah,
thank you for joining me, Cynthia, for showing a little bit about your lifestyle, about the way you think about health, and different points of views about the world. It's super fascinating. And looking forward to the continuation and wishing you a lot of success in the future.
thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Man. Yeah, right now.